What does it really cost to meet the expectations of academic excellence? Today, we are joined by a dental student from a very prestigious university to discuss the unspoken pressures of growing up in an East Asian household, where achievement is celebrated, but mental health struggles behind it often remain invisible. This is a conversation about redefining success, breaking silence, and finding balance. Welcome to Unspoken Minds, a podcast dedicated to breaking the silence around mental health in South Asian communities. I am Arnav Sagal, the founder of Uplifting Minds. In each episode, we bring together doctors, educators, parents, mentors, students, and more to explore how cultural expectations, stigma, and academic pressure shape mental well-being. Through honest conversations and lived experiences, our goal is to create understanding, encourage dialogue, and make mental health support more accessible and culturally informed. Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me and taking your time out to talk with me today. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, a little bit about me. My name is Christina. I'm currently a first year dental student here at the University of Pennsylvania. Um, and I'm just here to talk a little bit about how I got to where I am today, and then some of the mental struggles that I've had throughout the years, and then how I'm trying to improve on that, and then find ways to de-stress.
Do you think you could tell us a little bit about your journey to dental school and kind of what that path looked like for you?
Yeah, of course. So it started in high school. I knew from an early age that I wanted to be a dentist in the future. So I worked on taking as many AP science classes as I could. I made sure to shadow a multitude of dental specialties. I kept my grades high. And then when I went to undergrad, I entered a dual program for dental at Nova Southeastern University. I spent 3.5 years there. I majored in biology and I had a minor in music. I made sure to be very involved. I had a lot of volunteer hours, clinical hours. Every summer, I worked at a dental office and dental assisted. I had high letters of recommendation, made sure to keep my DAT exam high, my GPA high, and then I applied to dental school, and now here I am.
That's a packed schedule, but you mentioned that you minored in music. What instrument did you play?
I had my music minor focused in piano. I thought it was a good way for me to, escape the hardcore science classes that you're expected to take when you're applying to dental and medical school. And it was a really good outlet for me in the 3.5 years that I was in undergrad for me to just leave all the labs that I was in and then go to the music rooms and be able to express myself through playing piano.
Yeah, definitely. It's super important to find something else but school that you can do to keep you occupied.
Exactly, I agree.
And you mentioned that you went to UPenn, which is obviously a very prestigious university in the US. And so when someone hears that you attend UPenn, what assumptions do you think they make? Maybe that you're naturally gifted or you're talented or you're very smart. Like what do you think people perceive you as?
So I think that there's usually two assumptions people make. Number one is that I'm naturally so talented and smart. And the second one is that maybe I have family who went to Penn because these Ivy schools and the prestigious schools, they do really value if maybe your mom or your dad went to their institution as well. But for me, neither of these were the case. I work really hard for the grades that I get, and I have to work really hard to be able to have a spot here.
Yeah, definitely. And academic success is often celebrated across many cultures, right? But the pressure behind it can look very different depending on your background. And so I want to ask you, do you think there were any expectations, both spoken or unspoken, that you felt growing up in a Chinese or South Asian or East Asian household around academics or your career?
Some expectations that I felt growing up in a Chinese household was that I had to keep my grades up really high. That was kind of unspoken. It was just expected of me. And then something spoken was that they expected me to attend a prestigious university just because they are immigrants to this country. They grew up here chasing the American dream, and then they wanted me to attend a prestigious university to kind of make me feel like all of their hard work has paid off.
Do you think that there were any big misconceptions that existed in your in like high achieving South Asian households in general?
I do think that people maybe from the outside, they assume that us kids can always handle this pressure indefinitely, but a lot of the times they don't consider the emotional toll of always having to chase perfectionism, um, your fear of failure, and then this constant comparison of comparing yourself to people who might on paper seem a lot better than you are. But I don't think success makes someone immune to all of these struggles that you might have mentally.
But do you think that there was a pressure put on you to kind of prioritize your achievement over your own well-being?
I think definitely since grades were always just expected to be good, I would be sleep deprived and then feel really tired since the week of your exams, you don't really have any time to be catching up on sleep. So I definitely prioritize having good grades and that sort of achievement over my own well-being a lot of times. And to be honest with you, it's still something that I struggle with today.
How do you think comparison or competition among your peers or maybe other family members show up in academic spaces for students from your background?
I think, like you said, it's pretty common and it's really heavy in Chinese culture too. But from a young age, I feel like my parents did a really good job at distancing me and my little brother from people who were ultra competitive and they love to compare. People often say that comparison is a thief of joy. And I agree because a lot of times some people who are ultra competitive, they will make you feel worse for your accomplishments as if you're not enough and not doing enough. And it's important to stay away from those people who bring you down, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And for many students, the pressures often become internalized rather than being openly discussed. And so that brings me to the next question I have for you. Do you think that mental health was openly discussed in your family or community growing up?
I think stereotypically for an Asian household, it's not very openly discussed, but the circumstances were different for my family just because when I was really young, my parents had a family friend whose son unfortunately ended up committing suicide because he felt there was too much pressure, and he was in high school, I believe. So, because my parents knew somebody personally, and knew their son and knew that that's what they were struggling with and the outcome, I think they were always very open with me and my little brother and how we were feeling, how we were doing mentally, on top of just worrying about our grades and academics.
But stereotypically, why do you think this happens? Why do you think there is such a big pressure, but then at the same time, it's such a stigmatized topic?
I think maybe it's their failure to accept what's happening. Maybe they don't want to accept it because growing up and for them to travel from their own countries and immigrate to a brand new country, my parents personally, they were struggling the first few years that they were here to try to make a name for themselves and make a living. And when you're struggling like that and struggling with finances, maybe I don't think that mental health is at the top of your concern list. You're worried about how to make money and then how to put food on the plate, how to have a roof over your head, and things like this. I think that they're just so used to that for their kids like us, we're growing up with a new era of everything, and it's different than when they were growing up. So I think that's why they're having difficulty accepting that mental health is a real thing and it is a real struggle that a lot of kids are having.
How do you think families can encourage ambition without sacrificing mental well-being? Because at the same time, I think it's super important to have parents who kind of push you to do better, to be more successful.
I think it starts with checking in beyond the scope of just academics. You know, instead of just asking, how did you do on this exam? How did you do on that quiz? You could also start asking your kids, how are you feeling about this? You know, maybe when they're preparing for it or after their exam, how did you feel about it? I think it goes a long way. Supporting this ambition for success, I don't think it necessarily means having constant pressure. It also means letting your kids know that you love them and you support them, you care about them even when they're tired or stressed and not at their best. So I think it's important to have a good balance between pushing them and then also supporting them at the same time.
But I think also at the same time, like you mentioned earlier, that can be kind of tough for, it's like, well, maybe not tough, but it's just not very frequent in South Asian or East Asian households where the parents are validating their children.
That's true. That's something that I'm not sure if um our parents are ever going to be able to change their mindset, but I think it's definitely something that in our generation we can pass on to our kids and hopefully change that for the better.
Yeah, definitely. It's very hard for an older person to change their perspective when they've lived their entire life believing this idea. But for younger people like us, we are more impressionable and we can pass this down to our children and have a more culturally informed and positive community.
I agree, and I hope that's the goal for us.
Yeah. Even though you had a positive experience, do you think that during high stress periods like applications or exam seasons in like college because you applied to dental school, do you think like how did you think that stress or anxiety showed up for you? And did you feel you were able to talk about it?
Stress for me, I start clenching my teeth and grinding my teeth. I forget to eat. I definitely start lacking on the chores in my apartment. I don't do my dishes. I don't do my laundry. Everything gets a little messy. I forget to take care of myself in a way. And I feel guilty almost for not doing anything except studying or doing the academic work that I have at hand. And I've been lucky to have my parents who were always very supportive, and they help me relax almost by taking away simple things like cooking or cleaning for me. And they always tried their best to take away simple things like chores to lighten up my own plate so that I had more time to focus on my academics.
You mentioned that your parents really helped you, but do you think that there was anyone else, like friends or other family members, who may have helped you through these difficult periods?
Oh, for sure. I had such a supportive group of friends. It helped a lot for me, I think, because a majority of my closest friends they're currently all in either dental school or in medical school themselves. So it helped having a group of people that related to each other and we all had similar struggles. Everybody had to have a packed schedule when we were applying to grad school. Everybody was trying to get high grades. And, it can go two ways. Sometimes people end up falling off with their friends because everybody's being so competitive with each other and trying to, one up you kind of and get a better grade and have more research, more extracurriculars. But I was lucky to have a group of friends who were very supportive.
So I was talking to someone else earlier who said that they found community through culture, through people who are like who had a similar culture to them, but you found community through people who shared similar struggles as you, which I think is equally as powerful. And I guess like the entire concept of finding a community, building a community that you think that you belong to, be super beneficial for your mental health, right?
Yes, of course, definitely.
So you mentioned that you had a support system through like your parents and your friends, but what coping strategies do you think made the biggest difference for you?
I think something that I've been slowly getting better at is to allow myself to take a break and do what I like to do without feeling guilty that I'm not studying when I'm doing other things. And then so lately I've been just closing all my devices and I either go outside for a walk or I go to the gym. And I think that's a good way for me to shut my mind down from all the things that I have to learn for exams.
Do you think that there's anything that your parents or maybe even teachers better understood about students who are navigating these pressures?
I think it's important for them to know, or it's something that I wish that they understood a little bit more, that the road that we have to success, it's not always linear. Not every day is going to be a good day, and it's okay to have a bumpy road sometimes. It's okay to not finish your to-do list for the day, and then sometimes you aren't feeling your best and aren't as productive, and that's okay. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're not working as hard or trying as hard. Um, Being successful, I don't think it means that you have to study for 12 hours every single day, 7 days a week without taking a break. It's okay to have good days and bad days and still reach your goals.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's very beneficial to take a break every now and then to kind of occupy your mind.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but your perspective as a dental student now has likely changed a lot since when you were younger. So, do you think that your definition of success has changed over time as well?
I think it's definitely changed a lot. Growing up, just having my parents instill academic success in me, I used to think that success was just hitting the next milestone. You get good grades, get into a good school, eventually get a respected title in whatever field that you're working in. But I think today I'm starting to slowly realize that success can also be how I'm feeling every day. Am I sleeping enough? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Do I love what I'm doing? Am I still being myself outside of school? Am I making enough time to spend with my friends and family? I still care about working hard and I still do work hard, but I think success for me now includes having a good balance of both my achievements and how I am doing mentally.
Is there any advice that you would give to students who maybe feel defined by their grades or prestige like you used to when you were younger?
I tell them that grades and school names might feel really huge right now, but that's not the whole story, and they definitely don't define who you are. It's okay to care about it, but I don't think it's okay to let that completely destroy you. You're allowed to slow down and struggle a little bit, and you're allowed to be somebody else outside of how you are academically and on a resume. And at the end of the day, I think that going to a really prestigious school will definitely help you with connections and being lectured by top faculty. But at the end of the day, when you go to your dentist or you see your doctor or you see your accountant, how many times are you asking them where they went to college or what their GPA was in high school? So I think that success isn't always defined by just grades and prestige.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. If listeners could take away one thing from your story, what do you think that should be?
I think I really want people to know if they're feeling overwhelmed or burnout, that there's nothing wrong with them. A lot of us are all feeling the same pressures as you, but we're just not talking about it. Sometimes it seems cooler almost to act stronger than you actually are. Um, Success also isn't always measured by just your grades and the name of the school that you go to. These things might help you open doors sometimes, but they don't ultimately define how much you're worth or your value. You don't have to have everything figured out, and you don't have to suffer in silence to be able to be successful. It's okay to speak up and ask for help, and then it's also most important to define success on your own terms and not your parents' or somebody else's.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that we can really learn from this is building a sense of community as well. Having people who you can talk to when you are struggling, if that's your parents or your friends, whoever that is, just kind of build a sense of community with the people around you.
I agree.
Well, I really thank you for joining me today. I think we had a really great conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, I think just keep working hard, finding a community that is supportive for you, and remember to take breaks.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Unspoken Minds. It is conversations like these that are an important step towards challenging stigma and building healthier, more open communities. If this episode resonated with you, we encourage you to continue the conversation with your peers, family, or mentors. Be sure to follow Unspoken Minds for future episodes, and remember, you are not alone, and it is okay to speak what often goes unspoken.